Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the Yinzer podcast. We have a huge show in store for you today, so let's get into it. This is what we're looking at. We've got the salary cap, we've got quarterback direction, we've got free agency and trade targets, draft needs and order, draft strategy, mock draft, Broderick Jones situation, and then to finish off, we have a little message for the Baltimore Ravens fans. Just They've gained a lot of confidence in the last couple of days with the Max Crosby signing. So I think we just got to bring them back down to earth a little bit and just remind them that we own you. My name's Jack, and I'm coming to you from the Outback.
Hamdi.
All right, so going into the 2026 draft in Pittsburgh, Steelers have around about 50 million left in cap space going into this draft and going into free agency, which is this week. There's plenty of people we can be looking at to potentially maximize our cap space as well. Obviously, TJ Watt has a massive cap hit, 42 million. DK Metcalf, 31 million. Alex Highsmith, 20 million. Cam Hayward and Ramsey both in the high teens as well. Probably need to maybe restructure a couple of those, which might be difficult given that TJ, Cam are all getting up there in age, so very hard to restructure. Maybe we can push some of that money back to backload the contract, but yeah, it's going to be pretty tricky. So we've just cut Jonnu Smith, which I think was a great move. Obviously a pretty busy tight end room with Pat Frymouth and Darnell Washington. Frymouth definitely needs to get more targets this year, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So Jonnu Smith freed up 7 million in cap space. So now, like I said, going into the 2026 free agency and draft, we have 50 million in cap space. But got to keep in mind that the 2026 draft class roughly makes up about 13 odd million of that. So we need to obviously make sure we do not go over that by any means. We also still have a quarterback that we need to sign as well. We will talk about that next. But in terms of the cap, we have a few guys that we could release as well. Malik Harrison has a $6.5 million cap hit as well, which would free up a lot more room. And then Patrick Queen is a guy who is a great name on paper, but last year definitely did not live up to his standard, did not live up to his contract whatsoever, which I think partly has to do with the D-line as well, which didn't really have a year that we wanted it to. And blame that on injury with our first round pick being injured for a little bit, and the difference that he did make coming in and out was pretty astronomical. But Cam Hayward can't do things by himself, and Keanu Benton is by no means a nose tackle. So that's got to change. Do we draft a nose tackle? Do we go and get one in free agency? Who fucking knows? We will find out. Another big thing that's going to affect our cap space as well is what quarterback we go with next year. Obviously, the Steelers are hanging out for Aaron Rodgers. Can we win the AFC North again with Aaron Rodgers at the helm? I think we can. He didn't have much to throw to last year. Let's be honest. It was DK Metcalf and people that probably are washed as hell or have no right being in the NFL. Calvin Austin showed moments. Really thought that Calvin would have taken a step up this year, but whether it's play calling, whether it's Arthur Smith, whether it's other factors, who knows? But I definitely think that we need to stick with Aaron just for one more year while we've got these guys on defense like TJ Watt, Cam Haywood, these old veterans in Ramsey as well. We've got to just load up and see what we can do because Aaron Watt probably got one more year left in him. And then moving forward after that, then we can either go into the draft next year, which is meant to be a pretty packed and stacked draft with Eli Manning and players of those types of names. But yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers this year for me. We've got other options as well with Kyler Murray recently being released. Do we think that Kyler Murray is going to have a resurgence like Sam Darnold? Well, Sam Darnold just proved that you don't need to be an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl, but you do need a really, really fucking good defense, and you need an elite receiver as well. Jackson Smith and Jigba, arguably the best receiver in the league last year, was definitely a person that made it easier with a consistent run game as well. So DK Metcalf definitely did not live up to his contract and his hype, $31 million this year. He needs to take a step up. And we need to get some help too, because whoever the quarterback is next year, they need someone to throw to. They need to make it easier for them. Our other option is obviously Will Howard. Let's go see what Will Howard's got. Maybe what do we think? Will Howard won a chip in college. It would have been great to see him get some game time last year, but unfortunately, breaking his hand or breaking his wrist just before preseason kind of took away some valuable game time just to see him what he can do during game time, because it's definitely a big shame that we didn't get to see him. So maybe we see him again, maybe not. Who knows? But for me, definitely think that we need to go and get back at Aaron Rodgers because look, he's a generational quarterback. And if we are confident in this O line, if we're confident that this O line can keep him clean like they did relatively last year, then let Aaron do what he does best and pick apart defenses. Another option, obviously, is a Malik Willis. He's going to cost a lot of money. Not a shit ton, but he's gonna cost around 20 mil a year, give or take, when potentially you could get Aaron, a more proven guy, for 15 to 10 million, or Will Howard already on the roster, or Kyler Murray, who can sign for the vet minimum, which is about 1.2, $1.3 million, which is going to be a tiny cap hit. And then we can obviously put that money into other positions as well. We have plenty of positions to need that we could move that money from quarterback over to those rooms. So let's see what happens. We we need to have a direction at quarterback. We need a plan because it has been just the absolute hamster wheel of quarterbacks. We've had since Ben retired, we've had Kenny Pickett reached at Kenny Pickett. So in the draft this year, please do not reach again. Let's just go through free agency, pick up the guys that we've got, and then we can either see what Will Howard's got next year, or we can jump back on the wheel and see if we can draft one of those elite quarterbacks, which it's meant to be in next year's draft class. Okay, moving over to our free agency needs. There is no secret that wide receiver is at the top of our list. Last year, DK Metcalf was the only real productive receiver that we saw, and we struggled big time in the playoffs getting open. DK had a couple of drops as well, which doesn't help. But for the majority of the season, DK was the only glimmer of hope that we kind of had in the wide receiver room. Calvin Austin had small moments as well, but basically Roman Wilson was shoved to the bottom of the pile as well. There wasn't much action apart from bringing in MVS was the only kind of production that we kind of had, and Adam Thielen at the end. And we do not need to be relying on 30-something-year-old receivers to save us. So going into free agency, there are a number of guys that can help us definitely become more productive. On the other side to DK Metcalf, we already have our speed guy in DK. So now we need to start thinking about underneath guys and guys that can run the shallow to intermediate routes. Otherwise, it's going to be the same thing. DK gets doubled, and we haven't got guys that can create separation off that line. So my big free agency targets, I think that we can look at is potentially bringing in Tyreek Hill for more speed, but Tyreek will probably cost you. And again, 32 coming off a pretty serious injury. Will he have that same speed and that same production? Who knows? Pretty risky. Otherwise, Mike Evans is another experienced guy that we can go out and get. But again, I think we need to bring in someone that is going to have immediate impact in those shorter to intermediate routes. So Romeo Dobbs is a guy that could potentially bring that action, getting separation off the line. Whereas, Calvin Austin and these other receivers that we had weren't really doing it. And Calvin Austin's a free agent as well. If he wants to come back, I think he would be more than welcome coming into that, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 role. But again, um, he showed some signs, but there wasn't really anything that blew your socks off, so to speak. Another guy who just came off winning a Super Bowl, and that is Rashid Shaheed. That is a tongue twister. Rashid Shaheed is not only a absolute return demon, but a guy that can create that separation and has a lot of speed. Spot Rack has him about 14 mil. I think that would be sound about right, 14, 15 mil. But again, he's a guy that's, coming off a hell of a year and could potentially get around those 20 million mark, but it just all depends on who else is interested. All right, cornerback is another position that we need to bring back. We've got two guys that were relatively fine contributors last year in James Pierre and Asante Samuel Jr. Do we bring one of those back? I think James Pierre has been that guy that has always scrapped and clawed and just found a way to stay on this roster. And then last year, he was no short of incredible. Like, he had some huge players against Cincinnati, even had a picked off his cousin Lamar Jackson in the Baltimore game. Here's a guy that can easily come right in and be on the other side of Joey Porter Jr. His market value probably isn't that high either, maybe around 5, 6, 7 million. Otherwise, looking elsewhere, there are some pretty expensive guys that we can go after as well. Deshaun Wright from the Bears, market value about 16 million. And Jalen Watson, again, is a guy that could potentially bring in and have that immediate impact on the other side. Patrick Graham loves to play the sub packages, nickel, dime, and just sending 4 or 5 guys at the front and having a lot of corners, a lot of safeties out on the field. It's no secret the league has kind of gone pass heavy, so I think that bringing in a number of guys that can move around, as well as Jalen Ramsey, which I think will hopefully play, kind of that slot corner, that box safety role for us this year. A short tackler and a heavy hitter as well that can put the fear of God into some of these opponents. Just go and ask Garrett Wilson. Other than that, there are some other expensive options. Marshawn Lattimore could be an option, and Tyreek Woolen as well could be a guy that we could bring in from Seattle. There's Seattle fans do sometimes think that he is a bit of a liability in coverage, but he's a bigger corner. He is a guy that can get up in the grill of wide receivers. All right, moving over to the guard position. Isaac Seumalo is a free agent. I'll say it right here. I want Isaac Seumalo to come back. It's no secret that our offensive line was trending in the right direction last year, and it is a very young offensive line. So I think bringing back a savvy vet, a guy that can create some leadership in that locker room, would really go a long way with developing the rest of this offensive line. Sayamalu was market value says around 9.6 million. I think hopefully he might be able to come back a little bit less just so we can put that money into other positions. But Sayamalu is a guy that had another fantastic year for us. And again, like I said, is giving us that veteran experience. Another guy that is a possibility is Zion Johnson, a former first round pick from the LA Chargers. He's coming into free agency and probably expect a nice payday. His market value at the moment is around 11 million. And, a guy coming into his second contract, we can bring him in and he would have that same impact as Sayamalu with that really experienced role. There's a big question mark around Broderick Jones at the moment with his neck injury as well. Does he get the start this year, or do we need to go out and get another guy as well in that tackle position? I think that it's a pretty deep tackle class in terms of the draft as well. But again, do we have other needs that need addressing before that? And finally, the safety position. With the safety position, all we need is a guy that can just hang deep and, prevent those big plays that we saw happen a fair bit this year. Um, the opposing teams took the top off our defense a number of times this year, and I think that's solely because we don't really have a lot of speed in that back end in the safeties. Sean Elliott being injured, Kyle Duggar had his moments as well. Duggar again is a free agent, so do we bring him back to play in that role, or do we go out and get a guy in the draft? I think the draft is probably the best option for us at the moment. Like I said, this free safety doesn't need to be someone that is in the box, moving around everywhere. We already have those guys like Jalen Ramsey. So we just need someone that can prevent those big plays and, yeah, working hand in hand in those zones with the corners as well. Some guys that could potentially fill that role. Duggar again, do we bring him back? Market value isn't that high at the moment, just sitting under $6 million. Kevin Byard would be another guy, again, having experience, but we need speed. We need someone that can come in right away and, create that burst. Now, to wrap up our free agency kind of topic here, Jaquan Brisker is a guy that could potentially be a very high end safety that we could go and target via trade. We need to make sure that we have somebody going into the draft at that safety position. Otherwise, it kind of handcuffs us a little bit going into the draft. We can obviously always revisit free agency after the draft as well. There's always guys that are available, and if we get desperate, then we can always go into looking to trade some assets. We've obviously got a pretty stacked edge rusher room, which could potentially bring in some trade topics and some trade talk, but it'd be nice to hang on to all four of those, knowing that rushing the passer is a very big part of our defensive strategy. Righty, moving over to our draft needs in order of importance, in order of need. We have a few glaring holes going into the draft next month. Priority number one, though, for me is wide receiver. There's no secret that wide receiver was very underwhelming last year. TK Metcalf, the only really guy that got productive. Obviously, we had relatively okay tight end room, but just not targeted at all. I don't know what the game plan was on offense last year, but please can we not do that again because that was dog shit. I'm pretty excited for Mike McCarthy bringing in a completely new offense and an offense that has proven that to be successful. Um, his years in Dallas, getting the team to 12 wins and not a lot of great defenses over in Dallas when Mike McCarthy was there. And then obviously Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay had a lot of success early, but did underwhelm going forward. So wide receiver is at the top of my list. Next, moving over to safety and or corner. We need to add to that room in the draft. Whether it's safety or corner, it doesn't really matter, but I think we need to get the best available player that hopefully in the second round we will move over to round three where we have three picks. I absolutely expect Pittsburgh to trade one of these to move up in the first or second, but defensive line is another guy that we are desperate for. We need a big ass nose tackle that can just absolutely absorb blockers and help these linebackers stay clean going forward because inside linebackers is another position that we had have two really solid linebackers in Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, but it's hard to make plays when you are getting guys they're trying to come off blocks and they're trying to make these tackles. But yeah, like I said, it is hard to make tackles when you've got big offensive linemen in your face. So going into the draft, finally, is the O line as well. Offensive line, we've got Isaac St. Malu going into free agency, and Broderick Jones is a $19 million cap hit going into this year. So I think we can all agree that Broderick has not lived up to his first round name. Obviously, we moved up to get him in 4 years ago. We moved up to the 14th pick to get him, and neck injury last year against the Bears, which, mind you, looking back on that on the tape, is pretty fucking dirty. He like ripped the top of his head off, and no wonder he neck hurt. So they are my top five draft needs that we need to get into. I will talk about those a little bit more in our next segment. To the Yinzer mock draft 1.0. I've posted a few of these things online, but this is the first one that I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper. So we've got a 7-round mock draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Care for positional value. Closer to the end, draft for needs towards the end as well, and randomness. These things are incredibly hard to predict, and there's always a bit of randomness. So let's get into it. Alrighty, it's gonna be no secret the order to this. Let's have a look how this thing went. Scrolling through, don't think there's too many surprises. Jeremiah Love at 3. Love is an absolute stud, but obviously how much do you put into that running back spot? So Lemon is the first wide receiver. Sorry, Connor Tate, the first wide receiver off the board. Lemon, the second, and that leaves us with Jordan Tyson is the third receiver and a guy that I think will be perfect for the Pittsburgh Steelers right next to DK Metcalf. Jordan Tyson is a go get that thing type wide receiver and is a nice shifty route runner that I think his route tree is obviously room for improvement coming into the NFL, but his route tree cannot improve much more. It is very nice. He can run every route in the book. So Very tempting to get Dylan Thalamine, but I think we just got to go Jordan Tyson here, guys. Like, let's not overcomplicate this thing. He is our biggest need. Wide receiver is our biggest need, and that is what we are going to do in the first. We're going to slow this bitch down a little bit because I'm going to get back into the second round. I'm hoping that a safety or tackle a safety or corner will fall. Let's see if we can get into the early second. Pick 42. Let's see if we can trade 53. And what's it going to say? 21. Yeah, we might have to trade the third. I reckon we could get something back as well. Maybe 170. Let's see if they like this. So we are trying to get pick 42 and 170 for pick 53 and 99. And they've said no. How rude. We're just going to have to offer that third and see what happens. All right, here we go. This is some absolute gems here. This is why I traded up. Have a look at who is available. Caden Proctor, tackle. Emmanuel Bregnan is a guard, which is what we need big time as well. Going into guard, I think we really do need to get Isaac Salamalu back because he is that veteran presence in that very young O-line. Obviously, it has shown some steps and some growth moving forward. But I think we do need to keep some older guys in that room. So I'm going to go past Emmanuel. But tackle is very tempting here at pick 42. Caden Proctor is an absolute stud coming out of Alabama and would be a nice replacement. Obviously, Broderick Jones going to his fifth-year option. This would mean we wouldn't have to pick him up. And he does have a $19 million cap hit this year, so that would be an interesting one. We've got Brandon Sassy as well from South Carolina. South Carolina, absolute DB factory. And D'Angelo Pons. He is small, but boy, is he mighty. He would be a very, very nice slot corner going into 2026. As well as Chris Bell, but we're not going to go back to back. James Rodriguez, I think we're going to hold on to Queen, to be honest. So there's no need to go there. Although Jacob Rodriguez is an absolute stud, and pretty sure the linebackers coach or the assistant linebackers coach for Pittsburgh this year is from Texas Tech. So that would be a nice reunion. But in terms of corner, I'm going to go with D'Angelo Pons. He is a guy that is an absolute stud and is very, very, very quick. Like I said, small in size, but he matches up with the best of them because he has got an absolute heart on him. So, all right, we'll speed this up because we are not going to pick again until 76. Here it is. So quickly look at our picks. We've gone wide receiver and cornerback. Let's move over here. There we have linebacker. Kyle Lewis was the linebacker of the year in college, and pretty sure he got some award for the Senior Bowl as well. Wide receiver, corner, we've got... This one's tough, but in terms of need, we've got Kamari Ramsey, and Darryl Jackson Jr. is the guy that I've been looking at a ton. An absolute ton. And also Caleb Tiernan out of Northwestern. This one's tough, but drafting for need. We're gonna hold on to Broderick for one more year, and then we are going to figure that out. Oh well, look at that. Genesis Smith is a guy out of Arizona that would fit us relatively well as well. I think that he is a guy that would fill that role of playing deep safety to an absolute T. So Genesis Smith, or do we go with a Kamari Ramsey? I think Kamari Ramsey is a bit more of a box safety though, and I do expect Jalen Ramsey to either play that box safety or go back to the outside. So we are going to go with, you know what, fuck it. We're going to replace the Broderick Jones. I've changed my mind in the last 15 seconds. We're going to go tackle here because he's going to save us a lot of money, and tackle is a position that you do not fuck around with. It is very important that we have a sturdy tackle. All right. Pick 121 at the top of the 4th round. We could easily dip back into wide receiver. Brennan Thompson. If we want to get speed, we could go Brennan Thompson here. And Jacoby Lane is another guy that had a tremendous draft, a tremendous combine. So let's make it quick. We're gonna go and get ourselves another wide receiver here. But who do we get between CJ Daniels and Thompson and Jacoby Lane? I think Lane's size is pretty similar to Jordan Tyson, who we went in the first. So we're going to go get a smaller guy in. CJ Daniels is a relatively large corner, 6'2", 205 pounds. We're going to go CJ Daniels in the 4th. And here is our pick coming back that we got for a composite pick. There are a lot of guys. What do we need here? Just to revisit, we've gone wide receiver, cornerback, defensive interior, tackle, and wide receiver. We still need that safety. Let's have a look at what safeties are available here. We still do have another pick at 159, so I think Michael Taffy could be a bit of a reach, but I really do not want to miss out on a safety, so I'm just going to take Taffy here to make sure that we have our guy there. Alrighty, Bo Stevens is an easy pick for me here. Bo Stevens is a big bodyguard out of Iowa. And we love to draft big dudes from Iowa. 6'5", 315, senior year. Shut up and take my money, Bo Stevens. Alrighty, 4 picks left. You know what? We do not need all of those. Let's see if we can move some of these and get what is left of some talent. Alrighty, I'm going to offer up 3 of these picks at the end and see what we can get. Here we go. We've got Jalen Storman, safety. We've got cornerbacks available. I'm going to double dip here and take Jalen Stroman for our second safety. And finally, to help us out in that tight end room, we will need to draft a tight end because we are going into this year with only 2 tight ends that are of substance. So I'm going to go the tight end out of Ole Miss here to wrap up our draft. Alrighty, to summarize our draft. In the first pick, Alrighty, to summarize our draft, in the first round, we went wide receiver Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. Then we traded up round 2. We traded up to the 42nd pick and took D'Angelo Pons, which I think is an absolute steal going in there. Darryl Jackson Jr., defensive interior. And we went and got tackle Caleb Tannen. Sorry if I butchered your name. I do apologize. As well as CJ Daniels as well. I think this is a pretty steady draft. Probably reached a little bit on Michael Taffy there, but Bo Stevens, we made it back with a nice pick with Bo Stevens and trading the junk time picks to get another safety, Jalen Stroman. Like I said, it's always very nice to have some depth in the safety room, considering we've had a lot of trouble with injury in that safety room. And then we went back and got Daquan Wright, the tight end, out of Ole Miss. Alrighty, moving over to the Broderick Jones decision. What do we do, man, with Broderick Jones? Is he a franchise left tackle? That is what we have been asking ourselves for 4 years now. He started playing right tackle. We moved him back over to left. Then he got injured. He has not lived up to his first round name tag, and he's getting 19 mil this year. And you do not pay $19 million for potential. You pay $19 million for guaranteed production. And I think that we now need to ask ourselves the question, what else can we do? We obviously have Dylan Cook, who filled in for him late last year, who was more than productive. But on the left side of the line, are we going to have enough to cover that left side? Dylan Cook and potentially a young guard in the draft is not something that is going to be good enough to cover Aaron Rodgers or whoever it may be. We need experience. So it all depends basically on what we can get back for our guard position and for our left guard position. If Isaac Seumalo comes back, I think Dylan Cook would be enough to get by. Based off my mock draft that we just looked at. Um, we have another option as well. Is that enough? I think it is. We could potentially move Broderick Jones next year if we did pick up his 5th-year option. It's going to be more money, and moving him to guard isn't going to solve anything. So unless Jones comes out this year and has an absolutely phenomenal year, I think that we would move off Broderick Jones. And alrighty, and that pretty much wraps up this episode for the Ginger Yinzer. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you at the draft in Pittsburgh. Very exciting moving forward. Until then, peace.